The message arrived at 300 hours. Major Thomas Reed reviewed it with a stillness that belied the storm raging within. The holographic display showed his daughter Emma's face, contorted in pain, her captors clearly visible in the background. Tall, gray-skinned Vexari warriors. "You have something we want, human," the lead alien hissed. "The access codes to Earth's orbital defense grid. Provide them within 48 Earth hours, or your offspring dies." Thomas closed the message and sat motionless in the darkness of his quarters. 10 years since his enhancement program. 10 years since he'd been turned into something more than human. The military had discharged him when the war ended. Too dangerous to keep around, they said. Too unpredictable. But they hadn't removed the nanites coursing through his bloodstream or the neural implants that made his reflexes inhumanly fast. They hadn't taken away his training. 6 hours later, Thomas stood before Admiral Wilson at Earth Defense Command Headquarters. "Absolutely not, Reed. We can't authorize a rescue mission deep in Vexari space. It would violate the peace treaty." "They already violated it by taking my daughter," Thomas replied, his voice betraying no emotion. "I'm going, with or without authorization." The Admiral's face softened. "Thomas, I'm sorry about Emma, but you're one man. The Vexari outpost is guarded by hundreds." Thomas turned to leave. "I'm not one man, Admiral. I'm Epsilon Project, the last surviving super soldier." The stolen scout ship slipped through the Vexari defense perimeter under cover of an ionic storm. Thomas guided it toward the asteroid base where they were holding Emma, his augmented vision easily picking out the landing bay through the swirling space debris. His body had already begun the pre-combat routine, nanites flooding his system with combat stimulants, neural implants running battle simulations based on the station schematics he'd memorized. The military had designed him to be the perfect weapon. Unstoppable, merciless, precise. What the Vexari didn't understand was that they'd given him something far more dangerous than his enhancements, a reason. Commander Grex studied the human captive with clinical detachment. The female was young but resilient. She hadn't broken despite their most sophisticated pain inducers. Perhaps her progenitor would prove more cooperative. "The human vessel has docked, Commander," his lieutenant reported. "One pilot?" "Yes, Commander, unarmed." Grex's mouth parts clicked in amusement. "Bring him to me." The first 3 guards died before they realized Thomas was no longer restrained. The neural implant at the base of his skull calculated trajectories and weak points in Vexari physiology, guiding his hands with deadly precision. Thomas moved through the corridors like a ghost, his enhanced senses detecting guard positions through walls. He disabled the security systems within minutes of entering the station. Now, the only alert was the growing silence as communication channels went dead one by one. "What is happening?" Grex demanded as the command center screens flickered and died. "Unknown, Commander. We've lost contact with sectors 3 through 7. Impossible. Seal the command center. Bring the human female here." Thomas felt Emma's presence before he saw her, the nanites in his bloodstream detecting the familial DNA match even through walls. 20 meters ahead, 12 guards, 1 high-ranking officer. His hands found the maintenance shaft entrance exactly where the station plans had shown it would be. As he crawled through the narrow passage, the air filtration system carried the scent of Vexari fear pheromones to his enhanced olfactory receptors. They knew something was coming, but they didn't know what. "Father," Emma whispered as she was dragged into the command center. Commander Grex observed her reaction. "Your progenitor has arrived, but he will not leave the station alive. Was he also military?" Emma's eyes hardened. "You should have researched who you were dealing with." The first explosion rocked the command center, plunging it into darkness. Emergency lights activated, bathing everything in a crimson glow. "Find him," Grex ordered. A guard moved toward the ventilation duct, weapon raised. The ceiling panel above him suddenly dislodged, and Thomas dropped into their midst. What followed wasn't combat, it was execution. Enhanced muscle fibers and reinforced bones made each of Thomas's strikes devastating. His movements blurred as he systematically eliminated each threat, his mind calculating angles and forces with cold precision. Commander Grex managed to fire once before Thomas reached him, the energy blast grazing Thomas's shoulder. Nanites immediately flooded the wound, sealing it as Thomas's hand closed around the commander's throat. You should have researched who you were dealing with, Thomas said, echoing his daughter's words. Recognition dawned in the alien's eyes. Epsilon Project, Grex gurgled. We thought you were decommissioned. They tried, Thomas replied. Later, as their ship broke orbit, Emma studied her father's face in the blue glow of the control panel. How did you find me? She asked. I put a nanotracker in your bloodstream when you were born, Thomas admitted. Standard procedure for all Epsilon operatives' families. Emma absorbed this information. Those things you did, is that why you and Mom divorced? Why you never talk about your service? Thomas kept his eyes on the controls. The Epsilon Project created monsters to fight monsters, Emma. We won the war, but some of us lost ourselves. Not you, Emma said, taking his hand. You're still my father. Thomas looked at his daughter and felt something the Epsilon Project had tried to engineer out of him, hope. The nanites in his bloodstream detected the emotional response and, for once, did nothing to suppress it. The stolen Vexari ship accelerated toward Earth, leaving behind a disabled station and a powerful message. Humanity's warriors might look ordinary, but they were anything but. And when provoked, especially when their families were threatened, they were the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. As Earth loomed larger in the view screen, Thomas knew there would be consequences, questions, possibly even a renewal of hostilities with the Vexari. But for the first time since the enhancement program, he felt fully human again. The super soldier had completed his most important mission.